It sounds like we're saying keep them cold, blast them with music and throw things at them from a distance with the hand-eye coordination of a primary school-aged child.
Okay, so problem
I'm
solved.
not.
Okay, good luck.
Yeah. Best of luck. Disaster nap sorted.
Sorted.
Hello, Sleepy D's and Sleepy B. How are you?
Sleepy D's in the house. So good to be here. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode. So good.
That's right. This is our second episode each week. If anyone is new here, welcome. This is Sleep Detectives. I'm Sally. This is Beck, and we are your sleep consultants. And every Thursday, we bring out an episode that is answering your real life baby sleep questions, which is a whole lot of fun. We use a lot of imagination in between and do the absolute best without knowing the full context based on what comes in that teeny tiny Instagram question box. And we're going to have a bit of a theme today. Beck, I know that on your socials you were talking about disaster naps during the day, and I've just had a look at mine, and most of the questions are also nap related. So this is a nap themed sleep detectives. We're not going to be talking about early rising. We're not going to be talking about self-settling or techniques. We're just going to answer the nap-based questions.
And we're going to give it a good crack because a lot of these questions that came through were very vague. And that's purely based on the fact that they can't sort of put their life stories into these little question boxes. So we are going to do our very best to sort of create a story behind it, I guess, and try and navigate and troubleshoot what we would do in these particular scenarios. So like you said, Sally, the question box that I put up was, what can we work on? Disaster naps did have a huge amount of votes. Disaster naps are really, there could be so many ways of describing disaster naps, hey? Like, it's not just one thing. It's not just that, the nap is short and, it was supposed to be a 2-hour nap and now it's an hour 15. Like, that can be a disaster nap for some families. A disaster nap could be that they've already had their first nap and then we're driving home and getting ready for lunch and so forth, and then they're going to have their second sleep. But on the way home from swimming lessons, baby dozes off for a few minutes, in which case, oh my God, what do we do? Because that's
a disaster nap.
Yeah, that's an interruption of sleep pressure. So that's really tricky. Disaster naps could also be a nap that just goes on for eternity. So if you're driving down the coast or something and, baby typically would have like a 45-minute nap in the afternoon and there's no way of stopping the nap because you are driving and you can't be sitting in the back and waking baby up and all the things, then baby could sleep potentially for a couple of hours, in which case, wow, that's also a disaster nap going
which
into
doesn't
bed.
sound, I'm sure for anyone that has a baby that A, doesn't sleep in the car, or B, just takes very short naps at the best of times, would think, how on earth could that be a disaster? But it can be. It can be when when we're always working to protect your bedtime and overnights. Yes, and look, naps are hard. Naps are hard.
Yeah.
Naps are hard even for the best of sleepers. Then we add things like childcare into the mix, nap transitions. They can be a disaster no matter what.
Yeah, exactly. And, I know, as we always talk about, naps are a really tricky part of sleep work. We've got nights that come together fairly quickly and often fairly seamlessly, once we've got all the ducks lined up. But naps are notoriously difficult to achieve. So when a disaster nap comes along, a lot of families do tend to panic a little bit and want to know how to troubleshoot their way out of it. So this particular family's disaster nap example was school pickup that is a 6-minute round trip.
I'm going to think it's not that you missed the nap or it's at the wrong time, because 6 minutes, easy breezy, you just race home, pop baby into cot, night. I'm going to guess that this baby wants to doze off for that 6 minutes and they can't get home in time to do it. And 6 minutes, and depending on the age, and again, we don't know the age, 6 minutes can feel like a big refreshing nap for a lot of babies, even though it is a blink in the scheme of things. So, and this is something that parents with school-age children have to navigate, and a baby have to navigate all the time. That would be my interpretation.
Let's just say this baby is 7 months old and has a nap that's finished at 2:00. Great. Their third nap is going to start somewhere around 4:30, 4:45. But this particular baby must love the car sleep. It's just their kryptonite. They get into the car, the engine starts, and they're like, ha ha, and I'm
surrender.
going to glide
I call it
off
the
to
DIY
sleep.
snoo.
Oh, that's
they
a good
just
one.
surrender to the motion.
Yeah. And it can easily happen because if school pickup is roughly around that 3:00 mark, most little ones have had their full feed at around 3:00. So now they've got Christmas lunch under their belt. They're feeling nice and tanked up, not super full. They go into the car, there's a bit of motion behind them, and then all of a sudden they're out like a light. So with that being said, 6 minutes, again, doesn't feel like it's going to break the bank, but the timing of it does. Because if baby takes a 6-minute nap at 3:10 till 3:15, say around that time frame, it's enough to reduce the sleep pressure right back, and it often leads to an inability to settle for the actual desired third nap, which is at 4:30, 4:45. There's just not enough sleep pressure behind them to actually want to fall asleep readily and easily, in which case there can be times when that third nap is completely refused because they feel like they've already had the third nap as their 6-minute one. So that's where it becomes really tricky. And of course, our children need to get picked up from school, right? So like, what do we do? What do we do? Gosh.
First of all, it's really
it.
tricky. There's no like hard and fast, this will solve the problem. First of all, I would be saying, okay, we need the art of distraction. Windows down, blasting some songs. I used to sing, clap, pass them anything to try and play with, just knowing that this is the danger zone for this car nap, and to absolutely try our best and know it's 6 minutes. Like, we just got to get home and then we can be down on the floor or patting the dog or something to snap out of it and get to the 4:30, 4:45. So distraction, that's going to sound like the biggest no-brainer probably, and I hope I haven't don't sound like condescending.
I haven't tried that.
Just keep them awake. No, but that would be my first, okay, we're going in with a plan to get this baby awake.
Yeah. Also, not dressing them too warm. So I think that sometimes feels a little bit cruel. But if they're nice and snug and warm, then they're going to sort of be like, oh, I love this cocoony, snoozy feeling.
Honestly,
in which
this
case,
is making me yawn. I could go a car nap right now.
Oh, my God. Now you've made me want to know.
It's a sign of empathy if you catch someone's yawn. You're just very empathetic, Beck.
Isn't it weird that you can catch a yawn from like a different side of, this is going to sound ridiculous, from across the world?
Yeah, through
like
a screen. But also, isn't there studies that if your dog catches your yawn, it also shows like a link between the two?
Oh, okay. Now
dogs
I'm going
can catch
yawn in front of my beautiful little 2 dogs and see if we've got a connection.
If they actually care about you. We digress.
So keep baby nice and cool. So just undress, maybe even it's just keeping them in like a short sleeve onesie, like a short sleeve bodysuit potentially.
And it's only 6 minutes.
6 minutes.
Yeah.
Air conditioning on, we are keeping them cold. God, we're cruel. What else would I do? I was always a big believer in like snacks, having rusks and so forth. So like, I don't even know if you can get them these days, but the really hard rusks that would just take eternity.
I could, at least when my babies
you could.
Rusk age.
Someone told me recently that you can't get them anymore. And I was like, oh, that's a shame.
I am 4 years out, but yeah.
Okay, cool. So let's just assume that we can get rusks. If you feel comfortable with your child having something in the car just to munch on and chew on, then of course that would do the trick. Having one of the other kids in the back once you've collected the children from school, like tickling them, giving the eyeballs, that type of thing, throwing things at them. Of course, the other children are probably going to be in car seats as well. So like range is limited, but if your 7-month-old is rear facing and you've got a little one in a booster, like a school age child, then you've got more chance. So maybe positioning.
Beck,
Oh,
it sounds like we're saying keep them cold, blast them with music, and throw things at them from a distance with the
okay.
hand-eye coordination of a primary school-aged child.
Okay, so problem
I'm
solved.
not.
Okay, good luck.
Yeah. Best of luck. Disaster nap sorted.
Sorted. Okay, let's move on. Look, okay, so we're going to try our best. But then, like, what do we do if it does happen and they do
Yeah, if baby
fall
falls
asleep?
asleep.
I think what we do have to do is just adjust everything forward rather than, like, if you've tried beforehand. Okay, there's that. We could adjust everything forward, or we could be the ones that pick the school-age children up later. Like, I think we've said this in a different episode. If there's an opportunity for you to be the last parent to pick the kids up,
Yeah.
maybe it could be worthwhile doing that. And so instead of having the feed and rushing into the car and baby's all settled and lovely and nice and full, it might be an option to put them down on the mat and spend 10 or 15 minutes letting them wind back up again and get a little bit more awake and so forth before you put them in the car, and then go and pick the children up, and you may have more success getting through that particular school run. So that. Otherwise, if they do have a quick nap, we're going to have to adjust everything, I think.
I was definitely one that would still have a go sometimes at having the actual scheduled nap. So if we had a micro nap in the car before I brought everything forward, because I still had time to then pivot to an early dinner, early bed, et cetera, I would think, maybe I'll just try, and it doesn't have to go to plan. I can do it in the carrier. They don't have to self-settle. But knowing if we're on a really consistent schedule, sometimes that body clock is just so primed to know, oh, yeah, at this time I still go to sleep, even if it's not for as long, that I would still give it a go and then call it quits if it wasn't, and skedaddle through bed, bath, book, boob, bed. Oh, we've done bed twice, but yeah.
Yeah. So I guess the other option is just extending that awake time to the next nap. So if you would ordinarily do a 4:45 nap 3, then maybe if they've had a 6-minute nap, you might just sort of try at 5:10 and then aim, add a little bit of extra time and just to try and give yourself the maximum opportunity to get your little one down. And then it might just mean waking them up at 5:30 and then having a 7:30 bedtime. So something like that. So if you could always give a little extra awake time.
Yeah. Would you ever say, okay, they've fallen asleep? Would you ever just say, why don't you just keep driving and see if they'll take a little bit longer, and that in and of itself will push the wake window? I think we're splitting hairs. I think the disaster nap question, we may be having a disaster answer for our listeners.
Yes, totally.
It's choose your own adventure. But would you ever say, okay, just now do from 3 till 3:45, let's say, and use your full wake window until bed? I do believe you are often in these situations damned if you do, damned if you don't, and sometimes you just have to have a go with these options.
I think if you didn't have a sleep consultant on board to try and find a different pathway, then you could potentially use that, especially if you knew that, and I would probably only do that if you knew there's no way you could keep this baby awake during that 6 minutes, and you know that they will absolutely not take a third nap later on.
Yeah.
In which case you kind of go, all right, well, let's just burn past a few parks and maybe get
long way round.
Yeah, and encourage that longer nap at that point, and then do your longer wake window to bed. Yeah, I would probably do that. But not the ideal solution, but I'm sure it would work for many families if it absolutely had to come to that.
Yeah. Gold standard would be try and keep your baby awake. Do your absolute best. I almost feel like a 6-minute round trip is almost worse than a longer one because you got no wriggle room.
I was almost just about to say 6 minutes. Maybe you could get on the bike and put baby in one of those seats in the back. And then I was thinking about how do you get the other kids in their bags and everything home?
Oh, yeah, true. Oh, hang on. Here's an idea. This is 15 minutes on this one question. If baby hasn't fallen asleep on the way there, get baby out, have a play. If children are on the play equipment, get them back out in the sunshine and extend. And then you've only got 3 minutes to get home and children to keep baby awake. Have a play at school.
Yep. Great way of breaking it up.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Excellent.
Anyway, disaster answer for the disaster nap. Next.
All right. So the next question was 15-minute second nap at daycare from 2:45 to 3 p.m. on a 2-nap schedule. So this is one of those classic disaster naps where the nap has not been as anticipated and it's way shorter than we hoped for. And then we've got a long afternoon to get to bed. So 2:45 to 3 p.m. on a 2-nap schedule. How would you proceed?
Quick pause. If you're finding this helpful, make sure you're subscribed to Nap Trapped. New episodes drop every week and we cover everything from sleep regressions to daycare naps to night weaning. Head to naptrappedpodcast.com to subscribe and grab our free sleep resources while you're there. You'll also find our full episode library so you can search by your baby's age or the specific issue you're dealing with. And because this is the thing, like with childcare, educators have the best of intentions. It's a completely different environment. It often just goes hand in hand with a baby going to childcare. Depending on the age. So this could be a 9-month-old on 2 naps or it could be a 15-month-old on 2 naps. So that would be a contributing factor. My go-to as a parent is always I just do an early bed.
Mm-hmm.
I just do an early bed, 6:15 sort of at the earliest, 6:30 at the earliest, which means, yes, you're going to have to sort of race home and do an early dinner. And yes, you're probably going to have overtiredness and maybe overnight wakings. I would just remain super consistent because your hands are tied to an extent. Like you can't suddenly make that nap go longer. I would have my own children, they were not going to fall asleep in the car on the way home. Like once they were up, and that cortisol from a short nap on an overstimulating day was like pumping in the back seat. So I would have just done an early to bed. But I also had the luxury of being able to pick up in time to be able to do, a 4:30 dinner with a 6:30 into bed.
True. I am in agreement with you. I think that I would do an early bedtime. Like if I had to, I would probably, if it was just a one-off that this disaster nap happened, part of me sort of would go with the idea of let's just stay the course and let's just do the ordinary bedtime. So if the nap time is usually supposed to end at 3 o'clock anyway, I'm going to assume bedtime is somewhere between 6:30 and 7 for this on a 2 nap.
So you just use your full wake window?
I'd probably just use the full wake window. And if it went absolutely chaotic overnight because we've really extended our little one off the back of a 15-minute nap, then I would maybe pull bedtime, exactly like you said. I would pull it back even more just to sort of navigate. So I think it's just a key. It is a choose your own adventure based on what has happened before and what you've tried.
And also how baby's looking. If they are an emotional hot mess or absolutely wired and swinging from the rafters, then maybe the early bed is the way to go. We also don't know how the first nap went. If they smashed out 90 minutes in the morning, then they've definitely got some sleep in the tank compared to a baby that's done 2 15-minute power snoozes. And so looking at the baby and looking what's happening beforehand and then having a go and collecting the data of like, no, this baby does not do well with us extending to 7. We are going to go with the early to bed.
Perfect. Okay, I have one more for you.
Fantastic.
Okay, so we were able to piece this together because this is a parent who is one of the snooze clients, so one of your
members of the membership.
Yeah. 15-minute 11 a.m. daycare nap after skipping the usual 10 a.m. nap. So you were able to deduce from this that baby
I'm pretty sure
is
this
a
baby's
toddler.
15 months old, 15 to 16 months old, started at childcare and actively on the transitional schedule on home days and then communicates that to childcare, but understandably naps don't always go to plan at childcare. So I imagine what they've been aiming for is a 10 till 10:30 and then the 1 till 3 nap. Childcare has tried from 10 a.m. And then at 11 a.m., baby finally falls asleep. Do you let them sleep the full 30 minutes? Do you let them sleep for 15 minutes, or should we have called time to say to the educators, look, if they're not asleep by 10:30, it's a one nap
Mm,
day?
mm,
All really good real life
mm.
questions.
And then the other way that it could go potentially is if it's not really a disaster nap, but they decide to do the one nap and they let baby go. And then it's like a
And
11 till
yes.
12:30 kind of nap, in
Yeah.
which case that is hard. That is very
Yes,
hard.
but look, I think that happens, even when sometimes, again, your hands are tied. Like, I would
Mm,
have a baby, my own, like, at 15 months that would go down at, let's say, 10 o'clock,
mhm,
do 15, 20 minutes, and then absolutely outright refuse nap 2, standing up, time of their
mm.
life, probably waking up all the other babies,
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
like, just impossible, even with assistance. And so then my hands were tied, and I used to do, you don't have to do what I did, but I used to do a 5:30 bed.
Oh, yeah, wow. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm, and it worked like a dream, but
Yeah.
all of these things, like, it's out of your control.
Mm,
I think that sometimes I'm also aware of the childcare educator. So if they've been trying from 10 to assist this baby to sleep and we're at 11, sometimes I would say, okay, let's just call it by 10:45, move
mhm,
on with the day, and it can be a one nap day, just so it doesn't have to be a full hour
mm,
of resettling or settling that's not going to plan.
mhm.
Like, we'll just cut our losses. We tried.
Yeah.
If they go down at 10:45, I'd probably say give them 15 minutes just to take the
Mhm.
edge off, and then we roll in still to a 1 p.m. into cot.
Yeah.
And even though that second nap is probably short, it's not bringing bedtime too early.
Yeah, you're kind of recovering the day if you try
Yeah,
and keep the second nap. 11 o'clock, yes, I am the same. I'd probably do a 10-minute power snooze just
yep,
to get through. We want to have a nice big lunch and reduce the cortisol there. So yeah, I would do a 10-minute power snooze at 11 o'clock, and then I would do the second nap at about 1:30. Like, I
yep,
would pop baby down for that, because otherwise, there's potential for that child to be awake from, say, 6 o'clock in the morning to 1:30 with just a 10-minute snooze, and they're not ready
mm,
for a one nap schedule yet. So you've just got to sort of make sure that you're not pushing nap too far, because otherwise you're going to have a really overtired little one, and then
mm,
that second nap will also be quite disastrous. So it can all feel really finicky, and there's no real right or wrong answers,
mm,
I think, is hopefully what families are getting from the gist of this episode. It's just finding or having a little bit of a troubleshooting idea of
yeah,
what you could potentially get up to if things don't go to plan. Very, very tricky. And I mean, sleep consultants aren't immune to these things either.
no,
I remember with my children when they had swimming lessons, that was always like, we had to navigate a car ferry as well. So sometimes
mm,
we'd have the swimming lesson, and then we'd be in the car waiting for the car ferry. Then you've got to get on the car ferry and then wait until
to
it crosses
move,
the
yep,
river, and then, get to home and so forth. So there was always like a lot of waiting around, which, once my children were older, I used to use icy poles. So like the Zupa Dupas, like the fruit
yeah, you
ones.
got something to do in the back.
Yeah, there's something to do. They're cold, kind of like keep shocking them away
Yeah,
awake.
yeah, add
But
that to your
obviously, yeah.
protocol.
Yeah. But always really hard. And yeah, there would be times that I'd have that second nap it was hard because they did have the disaster nap. But I just knew that they were tired, and I just would have to sort of persevere. So that was my mentality anyway, as hard
Yeah,
as it was.
yep, yeah, it's tricky. My go-to rescue is early to bed.
Yeah.
Because again, like, sometimes, and if you've got multiple children, like, you just can't be fluffing around trying to
Mm,
desperately get naps and extend things. And so I would just always cut my loss and say, okay, we just do an early to bed, and I might hear from you, and I'll just write it out
yeah.
with my
Perf.
technique. Okay, here we go. Here is a nap question. 2.4 years. So what's that? 24, 25, 26, 27, 28 months. I never know. I always have to count on my
Mm.
fingers. Does 30-minute nap, bedtime push to 10 p.m. with resistance, time to drop the nap?
Oh gosh. Okay, so 30-minute nap, 2 years, 4 months. For me, this is too early to drop a nap. So I'd be looking
Y-
at the timing of that and potentially not looking at it as though the 30-minute nap is the problem, but wanting to increase the actual sleep.
y- Yeah, I
Increase.
think we need to flip the script and say, could this be overtiredness now that is then pushing bedtime so late? And it looks like, oh, settling won't happen, but it's more self-settling is struggling because they haven't had enough day sleep. And this is the irony about, and the confusing thing about sleep is you
Mm,
actually need to be well rested in order to self-settle. It also makes me think about what we talk about all the time, that particularly with a toddler who's taking a nap, we have to have a little bit of flexibility about knowing that, okay, they have had a nap. They don't have to fall asleep in 15 minutes.
mm.
It
Yeah.
may take them 30, 40 fluffing around, finding their dummy, playing with their lovey, but they're well rested and still moving through the layers of self-settling and then having a consolidated night versus, oh, they're not falling asleep quickly. It must be to do with the nap. Now, if this baby was 2 years, 10 months, I might think, okay, we can't have our cake and eat it too. This baby has great self-settling skill. Like this isn't a sleep training issue. This is a signal for a nap drop.
Mm.
But at 2.4 years, still be having a nap, a longer nap than
Yeah.
30 minutes.
I also, a part of me, this is the gut feeling around
Mm.
this particular issue is, are they in a cot or a bed?
Mm.
Because to have a little one that is refusing to sleep for that length of time, if they're going down at what time did they say? Did they say bedtime was 7
10 p.m.
or oh, but I'm going to assume bedtime is roughly around the 7. I'm just gonna make my own story up
Yeah,
then.
yeah, make it, 30-minute nap, bedtime push to 10 with resistance.
Yeah, it just feels like the more you put in, the less inclined they are to fall asleep. And you often
Mm.
find at this age, if you've transitioned a toddler to a big bed, that if there is resistance because they aren't falling asleep within 10 or 15 minutes and so forth, and then they're getting up and down, and then you're having to lay with them to get them to stay in bed. And then all of a sudden the chat is on and they're,
Yeah,
asking all
yeah.
about the moon and the stars and how everything was created and dinosaurs and all the things. So really tricky in order, like when you're trying to keep the nap in at a desirable time and work on settling at bedtime. Um, we want to try and keep our little ones in a cot for as long as possible until that nap has dropped, ideally.
Mm.
Um,
I
to
agree.
make things seamless. So I could absolutely be making that up. That might not be the case at all, but I guess maybe just as a point to note for any family that is
Mm.
thinking about switching their toddler out of a cot, there is potential for issues like this to arise, and it may look like a nap issue, but quite often it's more of a stimulation, um,
Freedom.
return to bed, technique kind
Yeah.
of solution. Yeah.
The other thing, depending on how long this has been going for, my imagination says they've probably had a long nap, and over the last couple of weeks or months, they've gradually trimmed it down in an
Mm.
attempt to fix the bedtime resistance problem.
Hmm.
Could
Yeah.
this also be a little bit of the 2 year sleep regression,
Mm.
that we've capped the nap thinking that's the problem instead of thinking, okay, no, this is about some autonomy seeking, boundary setting at bedtime and tackling it from that perspective while still keeping an age appropriate nap. So hitting reset on the bedtime, self-settling expectations and writing it out rather than adding in more and more assistance, which they may have done, and trimming the nap. And then it becomes a bit of a perfect storm for
It
overtiredness,
really does.
overstimulation, and a toddler's now sort of ruling bedtime.
Yeah, because a lot of the information that is being fed out into our lovely families
Mm.
is that you can improve sleep with
Sleep pressure.
scheduling, with
Mm.
sleep pressure.
You can't replace sometimes the need for some sleep training purely on how exhausted can we make this child?
Yes, exactly right.
Yeah.
This is exactly what I
Yeah.
was trying to say. Thank you.
So that's okay. That
Sometimes we
may
do need the
be what's
behavioral
happening.
approach. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Especially with
And
toddlers.
then
It's not a bad thing.
so at 2 years, 4 months, for example, if that's the age, then I'm going to look at having a nap from say 1 till 2:30 would probably
Hmm.
be my go-to, with about a 7:30 bedtime. So that
Yep.
would be my go-to. And if we were having a family that I was working with, uh, with a sleep solution, if an hour and a half was still causing a lot of issues at bedtime, and we had a self settler, then I might look at trimming that down to
Yep.
potentially an hour, maybe an hour 15, something like that. We'd look at creating the optimal sleep window, I think, for
Mm,
this particular little one. But the first thing we would do is add more sleep in, I think, at this point.
yeah. Yeah. Which I appreciate can sound counterintuitive.
Yeah.
And that's the confusing part. Okay, here we go. 15-month-old used to be a brilliant sleeper, now wakes for 2 to 3 hours at night. One nap, started to refuse the 15-minute morning nap, struggles to sleep more than 12 to 1 at lunch now. Help. I would be bringing back the second nap. At this age and in this scenario, we need to take the pressure off that one nap because it's not long enough. And then we have a big wake window, I'm guessing, until bed. And then we've got overtired wakings, and that will probably then slip into early rising,
Hmm.
and then still a long stretch to a 12 to 1, an overtired nap, and so the cycle continues. And this is what happens. Like babies can give all sorts of weird and wonderful signs that they're ready, like refusing
Yeah.
the 15-minute morning nap. So you've got the right idea. It just hasn't worked, and it can work really well initially, and then a nap does fall short, and then you get a
Mm.
long way and it just spirals a little bit. So this is where I would bring in the transitional schedule again, and we might even just do 10:15 till 10:30, and I would do it fully assisted. That's the other thing. If they're
Yeah.
refusing the nap, could it have been that we're trying to ask for a self-settling cot nap? In which case, throw that rule out the window, do this on the go, bounce on that fitball for 15 minutes. I don't care. Get it in, restore the 1 till 3 nap, bridge yourself to a 7 p.m. bed, sleep train out your overnight wakings and any early rising, and then start fresh.
Yeah. And I think the key here is to make sure that that second nap is a really nice, lengthy one that they
Mm,
can self settle for, link their sleep cycles, and they're really good at before we move back to that one nap schedule.
yep.
And let's just say you make the move again. So you restore everything looks hunky dory, and then you move back to a one nap schedule, then it's a case of working slowly, systematically through, like bring the first nap starting at 11:30. You're working
Yep.
with creating the right conditions for that nap to happen. And then there are times when we need to assist, resettle, sleep train the nap just to try and encourage that nice long sleep to come back out. So it's not
Mm.
uncommon to have to do that. But we definitely want to set the stage for a great transition by just making sure we've got all the things lined up before we make that move.
Yeah. And Kate, if you're listening, we have an episode based on how to troubleshoot, particularly the 2 to 1 nap transition, and making it, but also how to hold on to it
Mm.
with a little bit more nuance than just the 2 to 1 nap drop episode. And I think that would be really helpful because we do then talk about having to take that sideways step of lengthening out your one nap over time and how it's not a regression, it's not backwards. We've made a big change. It can be a tricky nap
Mm.
transition. But to take this question at face value, I would be bringing, absolutely, if we were having a consultation, we would be doing everything in our power
Yeah.
to bring back that second nap, even if it's just for a week.
Mm-hmm.
Hit
Yeah.
reset, everybody catch up, and then look to see what the signs are.
Yeah. Pram, car, arms, carrier, whatever works.
Yeah, and even if on day one it feels clunky, and I want more days in a row to know that this nap is truly being refused outright.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, we've got time for one more. Or Beck, I think you'll like this one. It's a juicy one. well, it's short, but there's lots to talk about. Schedule for a short long for an 8-month-old.
Oh.
Yes. I knew that would be your face.
We actually get asked this a lot, and the short long that a lot of families are referring to is something that can be really tricky at this age. So for a lot of families referring to a short long, it would be a 30-minute morning nap and like a 2 to 2.5 hour afternoon nap. And while it absolutely can be done, it's not the schedule we would move to initially when we are moving to a 2 nap schedule, because it is really hard to factor the 3 feeds in beautifully to allow for a really great night's sleep. So sleep can sometimes go a little bit backwards. So it's something that I feel really strongly about, that you don't start off with a short long nap schedule like a 30-minute nap and a 2 to 2.5 hour initially. You can absolutely work towards it, but eventually, once you've got the 3 feeds organized and your nights are looking good with the transition to 2 naps, you could potentially look at doing a 2 nap schedule of 9:30 till 10 and then 12:30 till 3. Now the key is that you actually have to work quite hard to lengthen that second nap out for it all to work beautifully. And there's a lot of but some days it might not work and some days it will, and a bit of higgledy-piggledy until it becomes really seamless. I actually prefer the short, long routine of a 45-minute nap in the morning. I feel like it gives a lot more grace to the day and can fix, even if the second nap isn't the greatest, it doesn't lead to a crazy night or anything like that.
Yeah.
So, and mainly that's because if you use a 45-minute nap in the morning, you can use a 3-hour wake window to nap 2. So you get a little bit of extra time to get nap 2 happening. Whereas when you use a 30-minute nap in the morning, you can only use 2.5 hours to nap 2. So that's why the second feed gets brought much earlier, lunch gets brought earlier. There's potential for that second nap to go a little bit wonky because they are looking for a little bit extra calories, that type of thing. So it's a harder one to achieve, for sure.
And just for any listeners, the only reason we have a reaction is not because this isn't an appropriate or good question. It's just that I knew that we weren't going to have the answer that they were hoping for. That we would rather hold on to the 2 longer naps. And if there is a problem with those naps, figuring out what could be causing that before we go into the short long. Now, moving forward, 9.5, 10, 11 months, we've got way more wriggle room with an older baby. And often their natural pattern is to take a short long. And, from 12 months, absolutely. We've just talked about the transitional schedule. We use short longs. The tricky thing with 8 months is that we're actually potentially still trying to hold on to that 3rd nap.
Yeah, that's right.
So there's just not a lot of leeway, even though life on less naps is better. And I'm just rereading this question again. The only thing is that could they be aiming for a different schedule, like 2 2-hour naps and a 45-minute in the afternoon, in which case we would be trimming the first nap and moving to a short, long plus a cat nap at this age. So maybe that could also be the interpretation, in which case we would be doing a 9:30 till 10:15, a 12:45 till 2:15, and a 5:15 till 5:30 cat nap on the go in the carrier, and then bedtime 2 hours after that.
Yep. Potentially.
Excellent. Yeah. Yeah. And there's a big difference between 8 months and 1 day and, baby's turning 9 months tomorrow.
That's right. There's actually a really big difference between 8 months and 1 week and 8 months and 3 weeks. I understand why families are really inclined we've got to get onto a 2 nap schedule. Absolutely. I totally feel it. But
the
your
3rd nap
child,
is tedious.
Yeah, absolutely. But in order to make things so much easier for yourself, just really wait for those signs. That there's going to be a point in time for 90% of our families where the child is like, I give up. This 3rd nap is we're not happening.
Yeah.
It's not happening. And then you'll know that they can do this nice long wake window to bed, in which case you're going to find that transition is easy peasy. So yeah, that's what we're looking for, rather than trying to force big naps in through the day. And if you've listened for a little while, you'll know that I did do the 9:30 till 10 and a 12:30 till 3 2 nap routine from quite early on. But it wasn't it's not for the faint-hearted.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I
I'll
mean,
be
to be
honest.
honest, it intimidates me hearing
Yeah,
it
yeah,
because there is a lot riding on that
yeah,
huge long nap and
hmm
nap training, which can
yeah.
often be tears. So, yeah.
Yeah. You have to have a really solid night.
Mm,
The child has to have the temperament to be able to have a few bumps in the course of the day, and for it not to necessarily impact them overnight. They need to be able to have these amazing nights, regardless of if it goes a little bit wonky through the day. And you'll kind of know if your child is like that.
mm,
If they're quite uh they get rocked a little bit by little changes and they're not as flexible or as adaptable, then often that's not the right routine
mm.
for being super honest,
Yeah, yeah.
which you all
And
love.
keep in mind, we've talked about this a lot. This is the most common age group we work with. If you could see my DMs now,
Mm,
every second baby is 7.5 to 8.5 months, and
yeah.
somewhere between 6 and 9 months. There's a lot of change. There's a lot of nuance. Um, there's a lot of magic as well to little personalities shining through and
Mm,
solids and on the move, and it can be a
mm.
time of tricky sleep. So just know that you're not alone and that this is how we would um, do it.
That's it.
Excellent.
Are we
All right.
all right?
Well, that was our attempt at
Yeah.
answering
Is
some
that a
nap questions.
disaster?
No, it just goes to, like, it's just so nuanced. And that's why we micromanage, because in these episodes, we're using our imagination. It could go a million different ways when we're
Mm,
working one-on-one, or, even in Camp Snooze, you and I, Beck, are running 2-week group training sessions. We see the daily logs, so we have the nuance to then say, you don't have to choose your own adventure. We will do
yeah.
that
We're
for
going to do
you
it for you.
based on what we can see. So hence the disaster factor to this
Yeah.
is that there's just so many variables, and naps are a beast at the best of times.
And we do like having disaster naps with our clients, like so that then they learn how to troubleshoot and know
Oh,
what
yeah.
we would, what would Sally do? So it's like
Yeah.
that whole idea is like it's never going to go to absolute tickety boo every single day. We have to be
Mm.
able to find ways to troubleshoot, and it's good to have these little disaster things that happen along the way for sure.
Yeah, you got to live the real life.
That's it.
Yep. All right.
All right.
Well, we will see you on the next unhinged episode of Sleep Detectives. Bye.
See ya. Bye.
If this episode helped, there's a lot more where that came from. We've built a library of episodes covering every sleep stage and challenge, from day one through to the toddler years. Visit naptrappedpodcast.com to search by your baby's age or the specific issue you're tackling. Subscribe so you've got weekly support as things change. And remember, you don't need to figure this out all at once. One episode, one strategy, one night at a time.